We are back here for the LCS Challengers League for our second series of the day. Cincinnati Fear versus Wildcard. I'm Mad Magical, and I'll bring you up with Mazel and with Beatdown to bring this awesome game to everybody. Are you both excited for this top provisional matchup we have today?
I'm ready!
Beatdown, where's your energy?
I'm also ready, but
No,
I'm saving it for
Wow.
the game.
What is this? Come on.
I'm saving it for the game.
Let's go!
Look, I'm not you guys, man. I don't have like 10 out of 10 energy at every second of every day. I gotta reserve that
Can't
stuff.
believe you,
know,
Beatdown.
we have different
Can't believe you.
capacities. I know, man. It's the way I am, Lennon. Okay. The way I am.
All right. Well, you know what? As long as you are still excited, you know, even if you can't show it like me and Lennon can, but you're still excited
Yes.
about the game because this is definitely going to be quite a hype matchup because they are two top provisional teams at the moment. Plus, you look at Wildcard getting that 1-1 split against Dignitas Challengers last week. That's got to put a lot onto this series because Cincinnati Fear did drop 0-2 to the same team.
It's just been really, really cool to watch the trajectory for both of these two teams, realizing that we had this meetup at the end of the split and that it is a single round robin in the regular season and that both these teams are firing on all cylinders. The drafts are going to be insane and we get that culmination at the top.
It's been incredible too because when the split started, there weren't the most amount of expectations for either one of these teams. Like we all talked about it as a broadcast when some of our first meetings. Where were we expecting provisional teams to be? And although some of our expectations in that regard were met, you look at Fear and Wildcard. These are the two teams who just shot past everything we could have guessed.
I remember conversations in our weekly meetings going like, a wild card Fear, they're like top 6. Oh, that's phony though. Don't worry. As we get further into the season, they'll be down at the bottom.
Yes,
and where are we at now, guys?
At the end of the season.
The doubters. I mean,
I will say really quickly, it's really funny. When Shochi played for Taco Gaming, I once told him I wouldn't bet on him anymore, and he spammed. I wouldn't bet against him anymore. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay,
And then he
okay, that's a
spammed
lot
my
different.
DMs saying, doubters?
That's actually hilarious.
speaking of doubters, a lot of people doubted Cincinnati Fear, so let's take a look at the roster. And you can't really doubt them anymore because they are still towards the top of the standings, even if they do have a difficult schedule ahead of them. This is a team that we have been very excited to prove us wrong time and time again.
I think they have proved us wrong at this point, being one of the top, not only provisional teams, but on the left side of our standings graphic, as we love to break them up from left and right, being one of those top teams where we're almost certain they're going to avoid that relegation promotion tournament. It's going to be them and Wildcard who we're predicting to avoid it altogether.
Well, then we have to talk about playoffs. We'll get to that in a little bit because that could hold a whole different beast as we get close to it because every team will qualify for the playoffs. But let's look at the other team that you were talking about that could be the other provisional team to avoid relegation in Wildcard. And we got all the pictures of them this time. Unfortunately, we don't have Fears yet, but we got Wildcard
Getting there.
at least.
We do, and I think confidence is key with this roster. Every time you talk to them, every time you hear them in interviews, there is a lot of self-built confidence within this roster, and you've seen it on the Rift as well, right? Keel will take control of games. We've seen Saligod come out this last week. Lens has been doing his own part to really take it to a lot of the top bot lanes that we've had, and Moose Hater does Moose Hater things. He's a guy on a moose. What can you say?
And the thing that's crazy about these two teams, right, is not just like we talk about these players and how these provisional teams are towards the top of the standings. They're not doing it in conventional ways. They're doing it in their own very unique styles, especially when we look at how they draft. And Beatdown, I'll let you kind of lead the charge on this one because they are two teams that just do their own thing and continue to win with it.
And these are just 3 of the drafts that we've seen in these last couple of matches that these two teams have played. And it's true. They do play things out very uniquely compared to other people. You look at some of the champions, they prioritize looking at these drafts. No other team are pulling these things out. And the big thing is you start with Cincinnati Fear. They're a team where they leverage a lot of flexible and unique champion picks to get people like Shochi and Trevor specifically these really good lane advantages when you see things like the Tryndamere or even the Thresh come through. That game was a particularly dominant one from Cincinnati Fear. And they're also the only team who's ever drawn Seraphine bans so far in NACL Spring because Minui will absolutely play this champion. Shochi will absolutely run this champion. And it has so much value in the way they team fight. And you look at Wildcard side, the lane phase, not interesting to them. They don't care. It's about team fighting. They prefer red side. They always draft for late game, and they don't care about lane. It's about how their champions interact with each other in team fights. And it's just incredible how they've been able to stall out games and get to the point where they basically achieve their win conditions and they win.
That's why I kind of find this a very fun match to look at, because I feel like Cincinnati Fear also really like to play around how their team continues to build upon itself. You talked about the Seraphine bans that they get as a team. They look for these crazy, chaotic plays together, always looking to make sure they're getting leads, even if it's early, but they're still skirmishes, they're fights that they continue to look for.
I think that's the biggest thing, is that kind of grit, I guess, is a word that I like to use now, because you do see a lot of that in an ACL, and it's, again, goes back to the confidence we were talking about for even Fear, even Wildcard, but right? And it's so funny to me that we're talking about drafts so much and things like that. A lot of it has also just been on the execution level we've seen from both sides.
Yeah, and looking at this play, you know, I wanted to include this one because the Seraphine for beatdown. He really wanted a Seraphine clip in there. But it's something that has been powerful for Fear. It's how they utilize their team fight capabilities, their skirmishes. You think even like Faisal, when he plays things like Olaf, it's about how he can skirmish and join up with the team. Sure, he can create attention on the side lane, but then it's later, how does he find these flanks to mark the back line and get into these perfect positions for the rest of the team? Well, on the other side, Wildcard, kind of similar. They're very similar, even if their drafts are wholly unique. They're both about team fights and how they can work together.
Right, and that key difference is how they usually play to scale for the late game here. And this is just one of many of examples that these kinds of drafts that Wildcard go for. And you got to give credit to Lens. He will play those early game champions like the Draven, have a lot of great performances on it. I remember even this game in particular. And they're able to do so much here where they have these compositions that are so hard to deal with in the late game, and Moose Hater has been a big proponent of that as well, and the fact that when he gets the signature Garen, a lot of teams we criticize, we were talking about during the last game, they don't mark him, and Moose Hater is able to get away with a lot. People are learning and starting to figure out how to deal with him, but he's also been able to pull out other pocket picks, things like the pop you were seeing in that last clip, and a lot of other champions, and it's been cool seeing him try to overcome that with those different unique picks.
Yeah, and going into this game, into this matchup, I feel like this is where the meta is. I mean, when you look at both these two teams, the meta is never going to be an important factor. But here, I feel like we're really going to see things completely topsy-turvy.
What if we only get meta?
That'd be even weirder. See, that'd be weirder. That'd be the only time I think I'd be okay with meta, because how unique that would be between these two teams. So as we get ready for the draft, or the three of us are going to talk about this one, kind of get it through, make sure you're getting it into the chat. Let us know whether you think Fear or Wildcard are going to take this one. Get the spam in as best you can, because right now it looks like Wildcard, they're the ones out in front. I feel like it's time that we get into this draft so we can get underway to what we all consider one of the most incredible and hype matches of our weekend between Cincinnati Fear and Wildcard.
Should be one of the best matchups we have. It is the top two provisional teams, the top two provisional junglers going at it here. And as we get into the first bans, I expect to see a lot of the comfort taken off immediately. Faisal's Olaf is gone. Wildcard say they don't want to do that, but it is Wildcard on the blue side this time and Fear on the red.
And this is probably the only matchup where I'm actually really interested in looking at what the bans are going to be in that first rotation, because of the uniqueness and the kind of pocket picks that both of these teams end up relying on. You see what I mean? Like Olaf, Zach, we never see this kind of stuff, and it's because of the matchups that you're dealing with for both of these teams.
I'm kind of sad. I was really hoping that we'd have them both lay down the gauntlet, an Olaf versus Garen first match, just to say, hey, you know what, your comfort pick versus my comfort pick, which one's going to work out? But we're still seeing those comfort picks taken away. This Tristana flex that Manui and Shochi have both utilized. I do like that they're taking away a lot of this. It's more into those team fighting perspectives that we look at, the scaling that each side try to gain for themselves. The Garen, of course, has to hit the bench.
Has to. It has to. I do wonder if maybe at the last little bit we get some of the higher profile junglers taken off, like the Sejuanis or the Maokai's, maybe try to pinch that easy pool a little bit more. But when we've talked to Perry so much, it has just all been about trying to find ways to carry, right? And cohesion with the team as well. But he is one where if there's an open, aggressive matchup, he wants to try to take it. And then we get the Caitlyn ban finally by Wildcard.
That is something a little more average, a little more what we've been seeing so far. And to that point with Perry too, I mean, both these junglers are really interesting to watch because you look at Keel as well, a player who was in the academy system when it was called that, of course, and lost his spot, being that player who really proved himself time and time again last year, especially on the AoE Ninja Turmeric team that we keep highlighting for good reason, because the core of Wildcard in Heel, Moose Hater, and Duo King were the core of that team as well that made such a surprising run, a lot of upsets during Proving Ground Summer last year.
Ooh, here we go. So we were seeing more of the meta taken by both teams initially. The trade of the Maokai, Sejuani, Ashe, but then Zyra and a Jace blind that can be flexed for either Moose Hater or Saligo. More than likely, they're going to go to Saligo. We've seen Saligo play that quite a number of times so far, even though I do like the Orianna as a potential flex pick that they can hold on to.
So I think there's a lot of strength coming out from this first half of draft, at least for Wildcard. They have a lot of setup going into the second half. Obviously, going to be wishing maybe some bot lane security there, but I think taking the Jace early and making Fear think. And we do get the Beatdown Wanted special. It will be the Seraphine locked in with that Ashe for bottom lane. At least a little bit of flexibility as well.
Right, and again, it's like you said, flexibility. Shochi could easily run that in the mid lane as well. Should be good into the Jace if that's what we end up seeing. So you give that opportunity for Fear, again, to leverage these picks, these unique picks that they like to get, specifically for some of these lane matchups. And as we're starting to see the Ezreal ban away, I really like, because Ezreal Zyra is a big combo that Wildcard have run on that bottom side, and the amount of poke is just so potent.
Expecting a lot of marksmen to be banned here. Even though Yone gets taken off of the table, I was expecting to see possibly maybe the Misfortune, something that I actually kind of like to be played into Zyra. You could flex Shochi to play Seraphine instead. Try to see if you really want to catch off guard Wildcard. Do you expect it to be for Manui and then Trevor onto this Ashe? I'm looking at
now.
What's up?
I will just say, big key that we have said in all of this was that Wildcard typically don't care about the early parts of the game. Obviously, I think they have a little bit more aggressive nature with the Jace, but still very strong in the later parts of the game. And so now they're focusing holistically on this top side in the second phase with that Jax ban, but as well as that flex with Yone. And I think that seeing a little bit of solo lane being picked down by Wildcard puts them in a really interesting position in phase 2.
Because you want to be able to remove some of these really strong, or not only mid-game champions, but late-game ones. Like the Jax is especially a big one, really popular at the moment here. And we kind of have that answer, I want to say, because the thing is, that's another flex pick here for Fear. Once again, just kind of flexing, using their unique champ pools. Like Faisal could easily play this. Shochi has played this very recently, as that graphic we talked about showed. And if you're Wildcard, you got a lot of questions about how this draft's going to finish up.
Yeah, well, not anymore. But now with the Zeri and the Fiora locked in that quickly. So that's very interesting to see. I was kind of hoping that we'd see maybe the Alawi, something that Moose Hater has liked to play, especially because you look at this team and they do really want to fight into them. But instead, we get a little bit more typical. And I know you're owing about this beatdown. Talk to me a little bit about Faisal locking in that R5 for Nectin.
Yeah, it's like the last puzzle piece going on here. And now we know where everything is going to be going. And Shochi has played this champion already, like we were highlighting earlier on, and Minui, of course, also plays a lot of the Seraphine so far this split. And that bot lane matchup is good because, one, Ashe is turbo broken, incredibly great champ in the support role, love that. And the Seraphine is really good for team fighting. You have two members in your solo laners who want to walk forward and go in, and that's great. It's been a while maybe since some of you guys at home have seen Seraphine, but just a reminder, if her ult hits enemies, it extends the range. If her ult hits allies, it also extends the range. I was getting to that, Alex.
Sorry, jumping the gun there. You know,
I forgive you.
I gotta dip out anyways. You guys take it over. Enough of me interrupting you guys. You guys have fun. I'll be watching, and this should be an exciting bout of a game.
It should indeed. As we were talking beforehand when we were getting to draft, it is the two best provisional teams, the two best provisional jungles, and the jungle crown for the provisional squads is on the table between Keel and Perry. As we hit the rift for the first game between Wildcard and Fear, it's gonna be a banger.
It's really incredible, and I really hope nothing happens while I talk about this. The kind of stories that both these junglers have. The fact that Perry had, there it is. They ruined it.
It's just a little level 1. Get a little bit of
we
trades
cool with
back
this?
and
We just
forth.
keep
We're
it?
cool. We're cool.
Okay, we're cool.
Act like nothing happened.
Yeah, true. Like no one used anything. The point is, Perry, the jungler, remember him? We were just talking about it. Standout year last year when he played for Evil Genius Prodigies. Even more of a standout when he subbed for Dignitas Academy, which is incredible. They managed to get to top 2 in Proving Grounds, ended up losing to Team Liquid at the time. And it's just incredible what Perry's been able to do all of last year and what he wants to do going into this year, saying that he wants to be that carry player, saying that he wants to be more influential, not just good in the early game, being able to have that impact later on and be that big influence.
And also just that kind of coming into his own. I guess not really. Last year when he was on Dignitas, he was still playing a lot of those comfort champions for him when he was bringing out the volley bears, things like that.
Right.
But it feels like this year he has opted into some of those meta picks, but also will take the carry matchup like we were saying earlier when he can. Now, Keel on the other side, and for Wildcard as a whole, we said they are looking at late game holistically when they come into these games. I don't think that varies here in this matchup as well, but I'm definitely looking at those early paths on the opposite side starts for Perry and Keel.
It's especially important because we talk about how Fear like to try and leverage some of their early game matchups with these unique picks that they go for here. And it's also important that the observers highlighted a ward that came through early on from that early level 1 play. And it means that Keel's location, like they know what he's doing right now. So the side of Fear, they have an idea on where he's going to be. There's a lot of options here. Perry could go for the invade if he wants to take away the blue buff, or Keel most likely is walking away. You just beeline to that bottom side of the map and you have a play available to you.
So there was a ping. I didn't see vision up there, but there was a ping to the top side Krug, so a little bit of information maybe just being sniffed out at least by Keel, maybe just kind of using his instincts here. But right now, I mean, and kind of as we somewhat expect, a little bit of a slow early game, full clear pathings coming out for both junglers.
And that information from the Ashe, the hawk shot coming through, means it just confirms what they've already been able to find out. Keel will be away from this bottom lane, and it means Lens and Duo King do have to be careful. There's that potential dive opportunity. You see bot side, Minyu and Trevor, this matchup is going to be tough. You can see them trying to trade, trying to be aggressive, but Ashe Seraphine, look at this,
it's
man.
So
this
dirty.
Is so
also
gross.
because you get, if they are slowed already,
That's
the root comes down from the first tick of the E of Seraphine, so really tough stuff to deal with, but you're looking at that level 3 maybe, and a little bit later on for their big influence for Wildcard.
That's right. Now Perry just waiting for that scuttle to spawn. A lot of options coming through here. Again, Keel, most likely being the one pinging, is making sure the team knows, hey guys, Sejuani in your area, be very careful. And Perry
Looking for ganks.
Yeah, exactly. And Perry is just waiting. Maybe he's unsure what to do, looking for the Raptors respawn actually. So he's gonna take that leveled up camp away from Keel.
Maybe even looking at this little bit of an invade early on can be good for Fear, who do want to take that aggressive foot. Trevor is on an early roam here as a back coming out for the bot lane of Wildcard. If Keel gets caught around.
Oh.
This is huge. This is so huge. They get the sun. Shochi's already moving. Keel will have to flash. They don't have the damage to put it down afterwards. So Ligo slams a hammer and says you cannot proceed.
Oh, that's big. You get the flash out of Keel. You get his leveled up Raptors camp. And Perry is going to be able to immediately start picking up his respawning camps as well. Isn't going to back just yet. And that means you actually got a pretty big advantage for yourself in this early game as Cincinnati Fear. Applying that pressure onto Keel on this Maokai. And it's also going to give you this extra advantage of, because you have this bot lane that is stacking these waves incredibly, Dragon is on the menu.
And I'm looking at Wildcard's cop, but I obviously see so much strength at a team fight later. The setup in terms of poke coming through, but then they just have a lot of that follow-up as well. And I'm looking over at Fear and saying, well, you have a lot of team fight set up in your own right, but you also have a lot of those very hard engage tools to chase down with Faisal and Shoshi.
So the thing that we didn't get to highlight yet is this Fiora pick that I always find interesting in this meta because we know she's not a team fighter. She's great inside, great in split, and that's what Moose Hater is going to be going for most of the time. And I look at the rest of the comp here for Wildcard, and what they always do when they draft Fiora is they have a very strong core that can skirmish and fight pretty reliably in a 4 versus 4. But you need to make sure you don't fall too far behind, because even though they like to scale for late, even though they like to slow the game down, if you're falling behind and not able to reliably 5v5, you're going to lose the dragon advantage and you won't be able to make that comeback.
It's so interesting now as I'm looking and watching the pings on the map. It is starting to get a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more antsy between the junglers, trying to figure out where they're pathing, where they're going. We're getting a lot of pings every time they show, and we're trying to get at least first machinations for Fear, while Wildcard are much more just trying to respond where that pressure is going to be.
Right, and so far, Keel hasn't really found much of anything there in that regard. He's just going to start up this dragon, it looks like. Maybe he has that opportunity because the vision is there. But look who's also here. Shochi. Actually, he's just recalling.
He's just putting down the aliens, okay? Perry will come out of the jungle to the dragon started. Keel should be fighting over the scuttle crab a little bit here. Keel will try and get that one away. Doesn't do so. Perry is able to secure it. He has level 6. You got to roam up, potentially not there. Wild card, you got to be a little bit careful. Perry realizes with Saligo's reinforcements, there's not much to fight for.
Yeah, you have a smite that's coming up soon.
Oh my goodness, that's 2 plates?
Yeah, I mean, Faisal, not only has he got a big CS lead going on here, that plate lead means this goal difference is going to be insane. And even though you scale really well as Fiora, if Faisal continues putting on this pressure, means that Moose Hater will have a hard time dealing with him inside. And even though the dragon isn't being
They've got the angle.
Yeah,
he's got level 6 still. They do not have a response. They have flashes. They're going to have to use them. But beautifully done. First blood for Manui.
They don't even have to commit that Glacial Prison. A nice play coming through here for Fear. We're already seeing inklings of what this Seraphine can do. And Wildcard already starting to feel the pressure of it.
That encore, I'm going to need another one of those. That was incredible for the setup of Fear. And that's what we kind of said was the lethality option there. For Fears, they get one pick and they will barrel down that damage.
And I love this because there was the pink ward in that brush. So it gave the opportunity, either Perry does the dragon or he gets the setup play here with the Seraphine also in your bot lane. It's just unmissable.
Lens was like skirting the edge and Perry's like, nah, get in there. I'm gonna be a shepherd this time around. Speaking of, they're shepherding into mid lane. Trevor is on this roam for the Rift Herald fight.
And this opportunity means that you can go for the Rift Herald, but now it seems like Fear have changed their minds. You see Perry walking through mid, walking down. Not sure what he's actually really going for here. Maybe helping the wave shove there for Shochi. But realistically, this does mean that now you don't really have the dragon opportunity once more. Minui and Trevor are playing the fun police and saying no objectives for you.
Trevor just trying to get to that level 6 some point soon. Once you do, that arrow will start flying. We do see kind of return to normalcy on bottom side of the map, though. That Rift Herald still standing strong up there. No objectives taken thus far, 9 minutes in.
Right, and even though so far Fear been able to find some success with like things with that bottom lane play, how they've been denying the dragon from Wildcard. Wildcard aren't really in the most amount of stress at the moment here. Like, again, this is how they draft, how they play the game, where as long as you minimize your losses in these earlier stages of the game and you don't fall too far behind, you will still have ways to team fight, ways to overcome the early game later on. And that's Wildcard style. It's how they've been playing all split long. And it means that Fear, even though they have a comp that scales very well, do want to keep the pressure on to make sure Wildcard don't get to that comfort zone.
They definitely do, and I'm still looking at, the combo of the Faisal Shochi double AD carries from the solo lanes coming to fruition for them. But Keel will take this opportunity while under vision there to take this first dragon. It will be traded on the other side of the map by Perry.
And it's a late first dragon, and it's definitely a worthy trade for Cincinnati Fear, because even though Soul is something really nice to play for, you have a lot of bot pressure overall, so upcoming dragons should be very easy for you to secure. Herald, on the other hand, can be a little more dicey, so getting that one as a trade for Fear is very beneficial, and it means that Perry will have a very potent dive opportunity, and I'm already seeing the pings towards the top side, maybe.
I actually really like this from Perry. He's going into this invade again against Keel, and Gil's bolting up that way to try to see if anything's going down. Maybe even try to dissuade that Rift Herald play topside. But Perry is playing that aggressive stance on this Sejuani, exactly what we wanted to see.
That's right. You can see Keel thought he was making the beeline, but it isn't. You can see Faisal trading so aggressively, still has the dominance because he is making sure Moose Hater stays off this wave. That's why Keel has moved his way up top. Oh, he actually finishes that recall. So they call off the dive. It took too much time, and it means that Perry will have to look elsewhere.
Saw a on the way ping come out as soon as Perry finished that back. You see him actually pathing down on the bot side. Still a while on the Rift Herald, obviously. We see the engage, and that's what we were talking about. Look how much damage Duo King takes. But Lens is still Zeri, and Lens is starting to pop off. Alcove Gaming is not working in Fear's favor, and Lens gets himself on the board.
Perry's here. Perry can turn this around.
They don't have much. The Glacial Prison goes wide. They got to get something. Shochi is on his way as well. And this beautiful communication from Fear. It should net them a couple more kills. Shochi will chase under tower as he does. And he gets one back. Should be Duo King going down next. And the lethal tempo. Double kill for Shochi. And they're all on the same page.
And even though Zaligo is going to get some plates in the mid lane, it's still all Fear for these early game plays. A really nice roam from Shochi, making use of the ghost. He's going to get some plates of his own. And now we're really starting to see this lead grow for Cincinnati. Oh, wait, he's getting 3. Oh my.
The man is swinging that sword.
Is he gonna go for another? There's another wave coming. Oh yeah, it looks like they're pathing mid, so maybe he stays. Oh, he doesn't.
All right, so yeah, I was gonna say Zeri and Zyra coming down, definitely something you don't want to deal with. I didn't have to pop the ulti though, so still had that cooldown, but I like this movement from Fear. And the biggest thing for me for Fear in talking to all the members, it's they want to be on the same page. They want to pull off these kinds of plays and move around the map together. Look how quickly that movement comes from mid lane, comes from the jungle as well.
I will say at the start of this play, Trevor had that opportunity to kill Duo King. There was no way you're getting away from an ulted Zeri and the Alcove, but Perry and the rest of the team are still here to help salvage this because no summoner spells means no problem for the mid jungle of Cincinnati Fear.
You get the nice chain CC from Fear, and that's what's just so deadly about this composition they've gotten. As a little bit of spacing did do wonders for Wildcard, but giving 2 kills to Shochi, definitely not the way to go. He now has Gale Force. We do have the Eclipse on the other side for Sligo, but that's the Rift Herald used by Perry in mid lane.
And I'll tell you what else Shochi's going to be able to get some plates. And wait, Faisal?
He will pop the Dominus. He's a big old croc.
Ooh. Big old croc with a lot of lifesteal. Be able to walk away from that one very happily. And Herald does end up dropping mid, getting some more plates. I don't know if Shochi managed to get any, but he is still in a very, very fed position with that early mythic coming through here. And you can see he's pressuring mid, going to use that advantage to move bot.
Bramble Smash should knock Faisal back. He doesn't have the dominance and has no way out of that fight. Keo gets himself a kill here. Response on the bottom. It's happening again. And this time they have the damage to stick it to him. Trevor gets 1. Shochi gets a 3rd. And that's Fear back to abundance.
I don't know if that Glacial Prison actually hit, but you know what? It doesn't matter. You get the trade on the other side of the map. That's the 2-for-1. Big macro play here. And though it's important for Moose Hater to get ahead on the side of Wildcard, at the end of the day, these kills setting a bottom lane like Zeri behind is so impactful. Your only saving grace is that Saligo got almost every turret plate there and that first turret bonus gold. If we could actually look at the gold difference to see where every laner is at individually after this replay, of course, because Faisal, no ult, no flash. Oh, he does have flash, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I just can't. I mean, there's just too much CC. Keel's very quick with that flash engage, but then the arrow hits and you know what's coming after.
Yeah, it's just death. And this is what I meant by I don't know if that Glacial Prison actually hit, but you know, League of Legends disagrees with me on that one. And the point is, it would have died anyway. It's a good answer from the side of Cincinnati Fear, and here we get to take a look at that gold difference here. So Lens is actually ahead of Minui, it's worth noting. The big difference here is in the top side of the map. Perry, Faisal, Shochi all have pretty decent leads ahead of their lane opponents so far, but those turrets allowed Wildcard to close the gap a little bit. Because look, Lennon, we were approaching 3K before, and now we're just over 1,000.
Have another dragon on the board here. If Wildcard want to continue to stack that up, they are putting a lot of presence around here, and this is some of that poke that we are looking for Wildcard. Again, we've said from the beginning, they are a late game focused team, and we're at 15 minutes now, still a while to that late game, but you see what can be possible with a lot of this poke down early in front of these objectives.
I will say the stall is really important. Fear cannot function without their ultimates, and they have just come back online. Look at Perry, look at Minui.
TP coming down, it can't be stopped from Moose Hater. Now the engage is here, it's a 4v5. That's a big encore, but it does get the stun down onto Perry. Fear should be able to pull out of that one, and man, these peel ultis are doing wonders for Fear.
That is unreal. Fear really needed this dragon to slow down soul stacking, and the fact that Moose Hater teleports and they still can't get anything done means exactly that, Lennon. Faisal gets the turret on the top side, gets some much needed gold into his pockets, and it's going to allow him to maintain his lead.
My goodness, what heads up play from Fear around the map. And we're coming to this where we put so much focus on draft and what's the craziest we're gonna get. Well, we got some craziness here, but it is all about execution, as we had alluded to. And so far, Fear are playing on the same page, and it's looking real good.
And we're seeing a lot of these one-item spikes come through for Cincinnati Fear, and it's so important because you look on Wildcard side, Jace, Zeri, yeah, they have a good amount of gold, but you're waiting for the 2-item mark, 3-item mark before they really start doing the damage you expect. But on Fear, they're firing on all cylinders right now. You look at Minui, who's going to be in that mid lane. Seraphine at 1 item clears waves like nobody's business. So you have that basically instant perma mid prio, and it's going to make it so much easier to secure these objectives. Because look at the pressure under this turret. They even moved Faisal in for it.
To finally take down all the outer towers. Now we're on to a second Rift Herald here for Fear. See a lot of movement around mid, and now they're really just hunting in these next moments, right? You're looking at ultis coming back online. We're hearing, at least from the last series, that's literally just on repeat. Go for these ultis from Trevor, and now Shochi has the Rift Herald.
I like that too, because we talk about Fiora split pushing. Tryndamere can split push just as well. So having that Herald is going to make that even more potent. That's why I'm expecting probably more than one person to be answering this Tryndamere in these next few minutes while the eye is in his pocket. And overall, Shochi finds himself in a very good position, especially being a player who I was pretty hyped on watching him in PGCQs last year and the brief time in Proving Grounds as well. But even with that excitement, that expectation, he's actually a player I'm really happy about, who's really been playing well so far in the NACL. And I mean, talking to other casters on the broadcast, also saying that Shochi is someone who surprised him and how well he's been able to play.
And I really love Shochi's demeanor and kind of the approach that he brings. It's at least from the interviews we've had, right? There's a very big positivity there, knowing there's a realization that things are needing to improve to some extent. But I love that kind of wholesomeness that we've seen from the Fear roster.
Absolutely. Now,
and honestly, both these rosters, that's where I find like them being in such powerful positions this late in the season pays dividends for them, because these guys do not have the same level of backing as a lot of our challenger teams, and it's nice to see them while taking down challenger teams their own, giving us a pretty hotly contested matchup between the two.
Right, I will say some of the provisional teams definitely do have a good amount of resources, things like Team House, things like that. But it's true, it doesn't compare to what challengers teams have, and it just makes the success even more incredible.
See Nature's Grasp come out defensively from Keel, and they're trying to hold the gate here, but the tower goes down. Enchanted Crystal Arrow, they're trying to follow it up. There's the Encore as well. They just chain the CC so well, and Duo King goes down. Now Flash is coming out from Fear. That's a flash from Lens with the Thunder crashing around him. He will not be able to take down Shochi. Shochi is smacking down Saligo, and the solo lane for Fear have put the fear in Wildcard.
Oh my god, an incredible team fight from Cincinnati Fear. On top of the turret, means they got an incredible gold lead coming through here. And wow, Keel, he's following him out.
You can kill the tree. I believe in you. Keel, he's running away. Oh! Oh no,
just kidding.
Minui was waiting. Wait, Minui, a little bit closer. He does have the little minion.
Wait, that's ridiculous. God. He actually lives.
He survived.
That's crazy. It doesn't change anything really, but that's pretty cool. So shout
Mental
out to
diff.
Keela for that. It is a mental diff. It's the mental victory sometimes, Lennon. The problem is mental victories don't always translate to gold. And that's what Cincinnati Fear have in spades. They've now increased that gold lead once more to more than 3,000. And we're seeing second items come through here. And to Wildcard's credit, they are reaching the spikes that this comp hopes for. But it is very difficult because the all-in from Fear is so strong. And even with these crucial spikes, Fear in such a strong position.
Shochi is 5-0. He's on 2.5 items now, and there's 4 members chasing down Moose Hater. Apparently, they put a hunting season out on the Moose, and Wildcard, they'll lose their top laner.
Oh my god. Fear, they're just moving all across the map as a group, continuously just taking turrets out one at a time. Removing safety from Wildcard's side of the map, making it that much easier for them to set up vision, to control these areas. And it's only going to get harder for Wildcard as time goes on, because now Fear are going to move towards that mid-tier 2. And if a fight like the one we saw before happens again, that's the Baron.
It's exactly what they've been building to. Fear. Every player saying they want to be on the same page. They don't care if it's a crap play. They want to be there together. And with all the talk of carry potentials from Perry, it is truly the team that is shining as a whole. When you're getting Shochi popping off on his Tryndamere mid, you got some of the draft, the comfort that we didn't think Wildcard would let through, and it made it through.
It sure did. And the question's still going to be Wildcard being that team who we know stall games out, who we know have been in worse situations than this and managed to come out on top. It is hard though. You have something like a Fiora, not the best team fighter, and when Fear have such a strong 5v5 team composition, it will take some exceptional outplay from Wildcard to be able to bring this into a win. And we've seen these things happen before. I mean, Soligo, Lens, very consistent high-level play from these two players, and they do have the champions that can have that same kind of impact. We just got to see it.
Speaking of impact, Fear are moving into this top side of the map. There is a Baron on the table. Don't think they have necessarily the tools to deal with that just yet, but we'll be making sure to keep down some of this objective vision here around for countering Wildcard to some extent. We'll see in mid lane, though. Everything is available for Fear if they want to pull the trigger, and it's really just waiting on a win more than an if.
That's right. And Shochi, I mean, being that Tryndamere, you can very aggressively trade your health because he will get it back with the Q. You have a Seraphine as well. And look at this. They can start the Baron because Fear's turn and burn is so strong. You get hit by the Seraphine ulti. Look at where Minyu is positioning here. They want to fight.
They literally are just waiting. There's the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, the Encore Cross, and they're right onto the back line. Manui's on a killing spree, and Shochi just will not give up as Manui, he has to flash away. He got a nice little engage from Moose Hater, and Wildcard able to pull it back here with a little bit of gumption to their own right.
Oh, okay. Minyu in a lot of danger. There is a flash coming out from
Soligo, but Moose Hater should just go over the wall here. Nui chased down. Will he survive? Oh, tries to get the riposte over the edge. Nice knife from Soligo.
They tried. That is still very big for Wildcard. You pick up a lot of shutdowns and a lot of gold onto Lens, who's getting closer to that 3-item mark, who is really scaling up right now. And these are the ways we see Wildcard manage to pull things up. And we'll see it in the replay, but I like how they didn't really force the fight onto Fear. They let the Baron take some health away from them, and it set themselves up for a slightly easier team fight. And watch this. They walk up, they know what's happening, but they know that the turn is inevitable for Fear, so they're just waiting for it to come through. And look at Lens's health. That's really all that's worth talking about here. You have the Zeri who's ulting at 2.5 items. If nobody's getting on top of him, he's going to do damage.
He really is, and I think that's we've seen being a consistent factor in this season meta, at least to this point. And Wildcard have been relying on that with this composition. That's where we've focused the entire time. This is their game plan, and they are starting to pull that trigger.
That's right. Slowly narrowing the lead.
There's that third item.
Gotten for themselves, and that's right. Navori quick blades for Lens, and at this point, he's the one to watch in these team fights for Wildcard. If his health doesn't drop, if Fear can't get on top of him, Wildcard absolutely have a chance.
Yeah, to try to find the back line again. That turn potential for Fear is the big highlight here. They get one big encore into Enchanted Crystal Arrows, Glacial Prisons. The CC chain will be there. And I think Wildcard just have to, again, mechanically execute. We're going to continue seeing the slap fest in the side lane between Faisal and Moose Hater. But this is the real fight as it does land. The CC chains, everything layered.
Wow.
And they get Saligo. Shochi goes godlike. He will have to pop the ulti here, trying to make it out alive. Duo King's waiting on the side as now Perry trying to save his mid laner. Has just left himself out there. And Lens picks up another kill.
That's the one for one.
He might be able to chase him down. Ultra Shock Laser, it's not enough. We try to get it across the angle, but it's just the Baron in the eyes of Wildcard.
That's right. You go 1 for 1, but the jungler for Fear is out of the picture here. And what did I say earlier? With Fear don't have ults, their comp cannot function.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow is up here.
That's the only thing they have left, but can it be enough to stop it? I don't think so.
3,500 health. You will be getting into the pit with Faisal, but it looks like Moose Hater is the big focus. Fear back away will not give their lives for that Baron.
And these are the plays that get Wildcard back in the game. You get a lot of upfront gold with this Baron. The Baron buff, meaning it's harder to push these waves against Wildcard. And Fear, all they have to be relying on is this Dragon Soul. But those Hex Gates, because it is a Hex map, means that Wildcard will be able to contest very, very quickly. And Perry is here. It's going to be a 5v5.
Shochi has 3.5 items now. He is the big focus. He has to get on Lens. They have to lock down the Zeri. It needs to happen if Fear want to pull this back from the brink of going into Wildcard's hands. The Nature's Grass comes across here. Perry has found Duo King, and they should chase him down, but Moose Hater's on a big old flank. He should come across the edge here. One has gone down. Now Manui is engaged on by Moose Hater. It's a split fight. Manui, he's not going down just yet. Grand Challenge has been done, though. Moose Hater's down. Shochi is unstoppable.
Oh my God.
That's a triple kill for the Fear mid laner.
That's what we needed to see. They took Lens out of the picture, and in one fell swoop, not only do they get the dragon, they remove the Baron that they lost to Wildcard. They cement their position as leaders in this game one here. Wildcard are falling behind again.
And we've had so much setup from Keel and Perry, but it is the gift of the early game for the junglers to put their carries on a pedestal. And right now, Shochi is above everyone by an entire body length here. 10-0 on the Tryndamere, although we will see Faisal get a little bit low in the side lane. Saligo should be able to bring down that hammer. 400 more gold to Wildcard.
Well, we talked about scaling and how Lens is online, so is Saligo. Is at the 3-item point and is a dangerous duelist. But we're going to see the replay here. And I like this. They held on to Minui's ultimate and they backed off and reset the dragon when this ultimate came through. And look at this. Perry finds the angle on Duo King. And yes, commits the Glacial Prison, but they keep everything else. That's what matters. Faisal, that front line, setting up the encore for a good fight. And what really closed it out here was Shochi. He moves, uses the Gale Force, and just takes Lens out of the picture. Difference maker gone.
Yeah, the immediate turnaround from the backline of Fear as well, realizing that Shochi is just going to clean up that side of the fight to turn on Moose Hater, not let him get the healing from the Grand Challenge. It has been a monumental effort from Fear to guide themselves into this 29-minute mark, but they have had a lead the entire time, and you've got to deal with Shochi in some way, somehow.
And this is a difficult game for Wildcard. It's worth noting, too, in a lot of Wildcard games, they have an incredibly high dragon control percentage. They get so many of the dragons in their game. Dragon Soul being a big way they either scale into a win or come back into games that were difficult. But it's Fear in this matchup who are one away from the Soul in 3 minutes time. And it's Hextech, a very powerful one. And that is the finishing touches for Cincinnati Fear in game one. You deny that Soul, Wildcard almost certainly don't have a way back into this.
All tools are available. No objective on the map for a long old time. And we'll just get a little lull period where Fear are looking for picks. They have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. They have everything available. And here comes the pick on a Duo King. You just can't show your face. You're not allowed.
If you don't have cleanse and it's not on cooldown, you can't be on the map. It's illegal. I'm sorry. I don't make the rules. Officer Trevor does,
we just
obviously.
work here.
Yeah, we just work here, you know? And Trevor is the one who says these aren't allowed. We got to do what he says.
And Duo King with those Stranglethorns is a big part of the spacing of Wildcard in these fights, and a lot of the spacing that has been bought for Lens in these fights. So crucial tool down, multiple picks now going on to Duo King, and Fear will take that all day long.
Fear have been really focusing on the Zyra, and when you have such a potent pick comp, especially with these all-in tools, you do want to take advantage of mobile champions like Duo King, like Soligo, and Fear have done a great job of doing that so far in this game. The biggest things to highlight, the things we are looking for now, are that Dragon Soul that's coming up very soon, and that's why I like Fear just pushing themselves into this side of the map here, using the Hawkshot, using everything they have to set up plays, control vision, deny camps, so that when this dragon comes up, you will be in prime position to get it.
And Shochi has finished that 4th item collector there for him, so making sure to thin the ranks a little bit in the end of fights. Has been holding on that zeal for this entire game, it feels like. So almost on that full item spike here for Shochi. And that's going to be a pain point for Wildcard while they still are scaling. It's hard to deal with the Tryndamere when he's running right at you and at full items.
Yeah, and Shochi has both summoners up, so it's going to be really hard to get away from him. Lens, worth noting, also has his summoners available. And Flash and Cleanse going to be so important in this upcoming team fight. We basically laid it out here. Shochi, Lens, these are the 2 players to watch out for on both these teams. The 2 damage dealers. One is out of the picture, and the team just doesn't have a chance.
It's going to be very difficult to pilot those fights afterwards as well. And what a matchup we're getting 32 minutes in. It is contested, to say the least. Only 4,000 there to ride home for Fear. But it has been Fear being very calculated in how they're executing the pick comp that's working so well for them.
It has been. And despite signs of life from Wildcard, Fear still firmly in control here. Fear using their unique champion pools to get these great matchups for them. And what does that equal? A 4K gold lead, another Baron, and that Dragon Soul in a few seconds. That's right, Lennon.
We might be at the Derby. The next race is starting to kick off now. Wildcard want to get in, but the Baron's already gone. And they had to deal with this last time. Now Fear are the ones that say, you have no say in this take. You do get a side lane tier 2 taken, though, by Moose Hater. There is some waves crashing onto the inhib tower there. Shochi's going to the side lane right now.
Hey, so I like this for 2 reasons. Two interesting things happens there. It's just to get the wave in and use the Baron buff to take these turrets, so people have to answer.
Oh my god, he does so much damage to the turrets.
Yeah, the thing is, they end up sacking the soul, and that's okay, because this Baron buff could be how you go to a win. Oh, parry?
Bold one there, parry. He's actually wrapping around to try to catch out Gil. Just playing very aggressive, as we had said his moniker is. He's just going ham right now. He has to flash back, get a little bit of support from the rest of his team.
Wow. So interesting thing too is that you don't get the soul as Fear. You give Wildcard more time by denying it, but that Baron you secured is still a way for you to be able to split push. We saw Shochi do a little bit of it, and we saw the damage on that turret. And it's just going to be continuing because the Baron's not up, and it won't be up until after the next dragon spawns. Control on this bottom side of the map. You can see it. They're moving as a group while Faisal pushes bot, and they're setting up vision.
I think the biggest thing here, though, is there's some give, some life left in the tank of Wildcard. They are on that 4th item spike for the Zeri. We will have the Bloodthirsty there. We have the 4th item, Shojins, at least for Soligo. So they have some of their tools now. I don't know if that's going to be enough for another 1.5 minutes of Baron siege. But it's Fear putting on that siege now and maybe putting a little bit of that fear into Wildcard.
Yeah, this is an easy inhibitor take, especially with Moose Hater on the other side of the map. And it's just Shochi also escorting another wave. That's another turret that should be going down.
A little bit low. They're under tower now. Multi-hit on the Nature's Grasp. Nice little encore across, and it's just poking both ways, but the tower in mid lane does survive.
So that one was really nicely done. You managed to.
Soligo.
It's a lot of damage. This is Jason scaled. And I will say, Moose Hater has been getting a lot. in terms of structures in the side lane, but realistically hasn't knocked on the base door yet. And now we're getting to a point where when this next objective spawns, I'm looking at where Moose Hater is going to be. I don't think we have a backdoor attempt available here for Wildcard, but if the game stalls long enough, that's a different story.
If they get caught out in a bad position, we've seen Moose Hater in those games before. We'll see if Fear fall prey to that, but that's where I find it so interesting that we got a little bit of comfort, a little bit of that spiciness from both sides, maybe a little less so from Wildcard, but more so from Fear. And now we're getting a very contested late game coming up. We're 35 minutes in, and this is Wildcard's home zone, it feels like.
This game's been a banger, Lennon, and you bring up a really good point. The fact is, we're getting to a point where Gold League doesn't matter anymore, and Wildcard have scaled up. But this teleport means Fear are very serious about breaking into the base.
They got the TP in from Manui. They're going to try to put one last push in the door of Wildcard. They should be able to get one more engage if they want. The Nature's Grass comes out from Keel, does land onto 2 members. Some poke coming down, and you can't take these prolonged fights against the Wildcard comp. They will just poke you out. Now they're all in and gonna Faisal has to pop that Dominus. Shochi, he's getting burned down. He already has to pop the ulti, but a beautiful encore across 4 members. Shochi doesn't make it out.
Big
Lens
shutdown.
has just got a big shutdown. He gets rooted down though. He's going across. He wants to go aggressive. He does have the Ultra Shock laser to cut them off, but he wants to take the angle. He wants the kills, and Lens is looking for blood. I don't know if he can find it. The Ultra Shock laser does not connect for a second time in a row, and the poke the peel is just there from Fear. Saligo wants to go back in, but the health bar from Wildcard, they got to be careful.
Yeah, Parry's very tanky, and honestly, you're buying time for that the super minions on the bottom side of the map. But the big deal is you get a shutdown from Lens. That's 1,000 gold he picked up by killing Shochi in that last fight. And we see the advantage they're able to get for themselves. Moose Hater continuing to push in these lanes as much as possible should at least give some opportunity here for the neutral objective contest. But we're a minute from Dragon, Lennon. And that's the biggest thing to be watching for, as Wildcard have 2 inhibs down on opposite sides of the map. It's very hard for them to actually go and clear up vision because they have to worry about their base. So it means that this soul will still be a tall task for Wildcard.
It will indeed. They'll have to push out pretty heavily, but you have full items now for Lens, and we get a little bit of a look at that last play.
And this is good. This is a good decision from Wildcard, trying to all in Faisal as you see the rest of Fear start to back away. And you force the Dominus out of this Renekton, and he's going to put in a really awkward position. Fear feel pressured to all in because of that distraction, and even though they get some from it, watch Lens. Low health on Shochi, immediately flashes ults for the kill. Because if Shochi's out of the picture, Cincinnati Fear are in trouble.
You see now in the picture-in-picture, it is the setup around Dragon. This is Soul for Fear, and an engage comes through from Fear themselves. Will be the Enchanted Crystal Arrow down for a little while longer.
We'll say Dominus popped for Faisal. Moose Hater's looking for the split. The poke is unreal.
The damage from the saplings plus the poke from Saligo. They've got a flank from Moose Hater. This is looking like a recipe for disaster for Fear. They've got to stay clumped. They've got to stay together. They cannot get separated as they do. The shots ring across the bow. And Saligo is the captain of the pirate ship that's trying to take down Fear. You got a Dragon going over to Wildcard. Moose Hater has pulled the flank, but you've got Parry on the other side now, front to back. Moose Hater's getting low. Parry over the wall. It's Shochi. He gets one of the kills back. He tries to get out. Moose Hater, it's so split, but right now it's a 1-kill favor for Wildcard. Get a TP in. Moose Hater, he gets canceled. Shochi misses the spin over the wall. Moose Hater, he goes down, and the base is open season for Fear.
Faisal, he's gonna go down. That is a long timer. And a really nice play from Saligo, but overall, the base is still under so much threat on Wildcard side. But the biggest thing, Keel secured the Dragon. We're at 3 dragons apiece, and Wildcard have denied the soul twice. Fear only have this Baron to go for, and they're starting to find themselves in a very difficult position. Wildcard's comp is online. You got full items on Lens. Soligo is almost there with a stopwatch. This team is very strong, very scary. We saw the damage from those last fights. So Fear needs to be more decisive in these last fights. Even with Seraphine, the damage from range is so incredible that you don't want to just spend time getting poked out. You need to make a move.
You do indeed, and that's the ball in Fear's court here. They still have about 2.5 minutes on this Baron buff as well, and looking to push in as they can, because you got about a 3.5 minute timer until the next big 5v5 is going to happen, unless you can find a pick till then.
That's right. Fear still maintain control over this bottom side, but we're starting to see those inhibitors respawn. Bottom's back. Mid will also be back in about a minute's time. That's why you see Fear. Maybe this is a little too dangerous because Faisal is showing in the mid lane. They don't want to go too far, but they still need to close vision out so that Wildcard don't know what's going on in their own jungle.
And you just, when you're not able to go forward in these fights, it's Wildcard's free open fighting because they have so much poke. Now Moose Hater got baited in by Faisal. He gets hit by the Encore, and that's a big catch out on the top laner Wildcard.
Huge. The big 1v1 threat on Wildcard is out of the picture, and now you can see them push this through into the mid lane. 2 inhibitors respawn.
They got super minions coming down as well. Soligo's trying to clear this bottom side, but there's not much that Wildcard can do. They only have 1 Nexus tower left.
This one is tough. It's worth noting, Minui doesn't have the Encore. Perry doesn't have the Glacial Prison, so you shouldn't be able to go for a team fight. It's just about taking these inhibitors down. That's true. If the arrow finds Lens, someone like Soligo, it might be worth going in.
And try. Oh my God, that's 2 shots back to back, just getting Trevor wrung there. A third hits, and Soligo wants a 4th. He gets a little bit of damage down, doesn't go on to Trevor though. The Stranglethorns do come out. Nice re-engage for the Anti-Crystal Arrow. Faisal's on the back line. Nice little Encore came up as well. Shoji is melting the elf bars of Wildcard, and it sure was wild, but the card is out, and Fear take game number 1.
Late game is Fear's Playground 2 as a 41-minute game ends with a Cincinnati Fear win.
What a game. What a kickoff to the series between our 2 top provincial teams, our 2 top provincial junglers, and they were facilitating their teams left and right. Perry was aggressive to a T, and it worked out well for Fear. That is it for game number 1 of this second series, though. We're going to send it to a short break. We'll have Magical with a halftime bid after this.